You're watching Salina Media Connection. Kansas Poet Laureate Huascar Medina of Topeka shared some of his poems during a presentation at Kansas Wesleyan University, Monday, December 2nd, 2019. The presentation, titled May Our Voices Ring True, touched on topics ranging from hardship in Puerto Rico, depression, and making Kansas his home. Huascar's poetry book, When Mango Grows in Kansas, will likely be published early next year. The presentation also included a poetry reading from local poet Joe McKenzie of Salina. His poetry book, At the Mercy of Ourselves, is available at Ad Astra Books and Coffee House and online at Amazon.com. The following program lasts about an hour and 15 minutes.
I want to write poems for poets, the kind that don't get published. Whispers in a secret tongue only you and I can understand. I want you to love life the way that I love words, as if you're reading your spouse's obituary, the one that only you could write, that everyone else can feel but barely understand. This is for you.
Good afternoon. Someone suggested maybe I should have gone first. Try to follow you. I'm going to read. I'll try to read. Do I have a half an hour? No, this is not as much fun as you might think. I'll read a poem from my book, At the Mercy of Ourselves, which was published earlier this year by Spartan Press out of Kansas City. But I want to try some newer things before I read that. And I'm not a shopper, and we're in this Christmas shopping season. Today's Cyber Monday, and I know many of you probably have been, online shopping most of the morning. I'm not a shopper. But I found myself with my wife at the Town East Mall a month or so ago, 2 months ago, and she was shopping, so I was just, browsing. And this is called Shopping in the Afternoon. Shopping in the afternoon for nothing. Size still matters. I have color preferences too. Look closely at style as if fashion matters. I read washing instructions. But I'm just looking. The Made in Bangladesh labels are preloaded with images of women and children at labor, piecework, just pennies, and still I look for discounts on a purchase that will never be made as I browse through the quiet afternoon of a good life. I assure board sales staff that I'm just looking. It's okay to just look. No one seems to be buying anything. Is this really America? People seem to be lurking and observing each other, pretending to care about clothes, accessories, and stuff. Music meant to sound familiar provides that soft and necessary party buffer between mall shopping and reality. Many of us are medicated, hence a rubber buggy double buffer. And it works. Suddenly I'm done shopping, I can't look anymore. Before leaving, I make a mental note of how I might appear if I was dressed in new clothes when they find me. A few months ago, I went to a noontime program that was a lecture, and we were eating lunch, if we so choose, but the acoustics were not as good as they are here at Kansas Wesleyan, and this is called acoustic lunch. Every other word was lost on the ceiling. They floated up there trying to make sense. So we only heard part of the talk. We are polite people. We looked at the ceiling to grab the lost words and meanings. We settled in and tried to focus on lunch, but that too seemed affected by bad acoustics, and we could not taste the tomatoes in the salad. Could not make sense of mustard on turkey on rye on a Tuesday. And when we tuned back into the talk, we heard some of what we wanted to hear, keywords like community and hope. We tried to water, and while clear, it also suffered from an acoustical situation of chemicals mixed with memories of rivers, chlorine, and plastic baby pools, but we hung in there as the talk and our tastes bounced around us to form new meanings that were different for each of us, but ever polite. We smiled and applauded lightly, as though we learned new ideas, biting off what we could, chewing it into unrecognizable bits, swallowing everything, a garbled message that sounded almost like something we should want to know and remember when we came back next month. Here's an old poem. I'll tell you, it's about Bob Dylan. I guess you might guess that as well. And I noticed this years ago that as Dylan became older and older, he was still singing songs like Your Baby Tonight, which made me think. And this is called Your Baby Tonight. Your baby tonight could be an old man with a pock-creased face of scratchy gray whiskers under a custom Stetson, brimming with secret stories of long string bolo ties, of black pointy boots and strange weathermen, bringing out the rare, shy smile of a self-made, born-again millionaire genius, famous American icon, artist, and grandpa, hiding Minnesota ice skating values in his vest pocket with an orphaned heart and a real name, with suspect teeth and long-gone hearing from standing 50 years on stage with an electric band, singing nasally obscure lyrics about subterraneans, pillbox hats, hurricanes, watchtowers, and coming home again. And you know, he's been a poor man, been a prophet, been a biker, Christian, hermit, cowboy, Jew, and now still singing, still willing at age 78 to be your baby tonight. You take a moment to consider the offer and think twice, as you hear the fragile sincerity in his voice, broke human voice. Let me take a stab at something in the book here.
What is the title of your book?
The book is At the Mercy of Ourselves. It was published earlier this year. Thank you for asking. I'm looking for a particular poem that I haven't read in public. Not that all of you have heard all of these. But this is a poem about imagination as well. And it's all based not on being there, it's just based on projection and just from opening the mail and getting a dinner invitation. Dinner invitation. From the address on the invitation, I picture a winding road on a hill that I'll have to coast slowly down around curves on a snowy evening, trying to read faded numbers on mailboxes, headlights behind me insisting a knowledge of the canyon I do not have. I want them to pass me in the soft dusk, to lead the way to a cozy house with a full bar and chatty guests. But they're content to sit on my bumper and speculate on my intelligence as I go deeper into this tree-lined canyon, more like a lost explorer than a not-so-hungry dinner guest who will later navigate the uphill darkness following the swishy red taillights of other drunken guests, but who now wonders about the long-dead city planner who knew this would happen many nights, and that I could eventually find a stone mailbox with a red balloon, flailing a welcome through snow flurries, pointing the way to a gravel drive of an old house they say has character, with a wide wraparound summer porch, smoking chimney, and slobbery chocolate lab. But in the first light of this dinner invitation, it was just another old house in the dark woods of my antisocial imagination, and I had 10 days to consider my regrets. Thank you.
Unless anyone else wants to share. All right, then first of all, let me welcome you all here at Kansas Wesleyan. I'm Dr. Melissa Rohr, Assistant Professor of English here at KW, and I'm very glad that you're able to join us for this event. Before we begin, so we may all enjoy the program, can you please make sure that your cell phones are turned off or placed on silent? Today, we are pleased to welcome Poet Laureate of Kansas Huascar Medina for his presentation, May Our Voices Ring True. Our program is brought to us by Humanities Kansas, an independent nonprofit spearheading a movement of ideas to empower the people of Kansas to strengthen their communities and our democracy. Huascar is a poet, writer, and a performer who lives artfully in Topeka. He He currently works as a freelance copywriter and as literary editor for 785 magazine, publishing stories that spotlight literary and artistic events in Northeast Kansas. His poems can be found in his collection, How to Hang the Moon, published by Spartan Press. He is the winner of Arts Connect 2018 Artie Award for Literary Art. And his book, Un Mango Grows in Kansas, was released in October of this year.
It's not out yet.
Oh, it's not out yet, sorry.
That's okay, I wish it was.
Okay, forthcoming. Let me just straighten this podium, that got a little askew, and then please join me in welcoming Huascar Medina.
Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for hospitality today as well, David. Thank you. The work I'm going to share today, it's in that new book, Un Mango Grows in Kansas. The book is primarily focused on my experience of being a Kansan up to this point, what my identity is here, trying to balance missing home and accepting this place as home for myself, but also exploring if other people accept that I believe this to be my home now. So that's the majority of the work that I'll be sharing today with you guys. Some of it's in English and Spanish. I'm a first generation born in this country, so I had to learn English quickly and forget Spanish a little bit. We didn't speak much of it at home. It's something that happens to a lot of us with language. We have to immerse ourselves in the cultures we're living in and assimilate. And for us that are going straight into school, the focus is English. So I'm good at neither at this point. So, so you'll experience some of that in my work. My presentation is May Our Voices Ring True. What I'm attempting to do is share honestly my experience, and hopefully in doing so have others share theirs with me equally. I think that's how the movement of ideas occurs, is through sharing of our truths. And I want to share mine with yours, and I want to open the floor to questions and comments or any concerns anyone may have after I'm done with this presentation. I'll let you know when I'm at the end of this read. So thank you for your time. I always like to start with work that inspires me to write. I think we got to know a point of reference where we come from. And one of the poets that I looked up to growing up was Pablo Neruda. And Pablo Neruda is a Chilean poet who's sometimes referred to as a poet diplomat, because he wrote about the people of the time and what was occurring in his life, and it reflected a lot of the struggles that they were going through in Chile politically as well. I'm not a political poet. I prefer writing poems. But The Poet's Obligation is a poem by Pablo Neruda, and talks about liberation. And I think poetry is that gift for us. It allows us to be free and express ourselves openly. So, The Poet's Obligation by Pablo Neruda. To whoever is not listening to the sea this Friday morning, to whoever is cooped up in house or office, factory or woman, or street or mine, or harsh prison cell, to him I come. And without speaking or looking, I arrive and open the door of his prison, and a vibration starts up, vague and insistent. A great fragment of thunder sets in motion the rumble of the planet and the foam, the raucous rivers of the ocean flood. The star vibrates swiftly in its corona, and the sea is beating, dying, and continuing. So, drawn on by my destiny, I ceaselessly must listen to and keep the seas lamenting in my awareness. I must feel the crash of the hard water and gather it up in a perpetual cup so that wherever those in prison may be, wherever they suffer the autumn's castigation, I may be there with an errant wave. I may move, passing through windows, and hearing me, eyes will glance upward, saying, how can I reach the sea? And I shall broadcast, saying nothing, the starry echoes of the wave, a breaking up of foam and quicksand, a rustling of salt withdrawing, the gray cried the seabirds on the coast. So through me, freedom and the sea will make their answer to the shuttered heart. I wrote a response to that poem to Neruda when I wrote my first collection of poetry, How to Hate the Moon, which is also Spartan Press. Jason Reberg, love the guy. He's in Salina, he lives here now. I just saw him yesterday in Kansas City. I was reading at Swordfish Tom's. If you can ever get out there, please do. It's a beautiful place to read poetry. This poem is entitled Spanish Knotted Feather Stitching. Only Neruda can save us. I've written him a plea for guidance, addressed it to the waiting crystal moon on a red branch of the now gone autumn in its window. It's cinched with thread to a paloma, who refused to wear the satchel my abuelita knitted through manos anudado before her passing. La paloma argued for practicality balanced against my need for sentimentality. The added weight of things makes flight onerous, they'd say. How I wish these birds were more passenger pigeon, less dove, willing to fight through wind and rain to get there, okay with war and loss. I've even taught them to fly in cursive in case they didn't make it, so others may see the phrases passing by before they're shut down. But very few people see the need for soft, round words, free and flowing in the air, their grace appearing indecisive, almost lost from below. How they pitied them, poor palomas. I beg of you, please take this note to its shores, sing towards the stillness view, be candid, have manners, wipe the sand from your feet before entering, bathe in his café, perch yourself upon his fingerpiece. I just have to know. Can a song of despair come before a love poem? My father is Puerto Rican, he's from Yabucoa. And the indigenous group from that area was Tainos. So I'm twice removed from my mother tongue if we take Spanish and the Taino language. It's something that I've been exploring quite a bit lately. And it's weird because I don't understand it. I don't at all, but I feel it. There's phrases that stick with me. And to naturally read it and say it correctly is something that I found very interesting. This poem is called Por Favor. Toa, toa, mother, madre, atabe, please come home. Take me to the beach sands infinite, blanketing us with abandoned time. These men are monsters, they are not gods. Why do you hide? Toa, toa, mother, madre, atabe, please come home. I'll perish if I leave, turn frog for crying, goki, goki. I will not stay without you. This has not been home in quite some time. These men are monsters, they are not gods. Please don't leave us behind. Toa, toa, mother, madre, atabe, please come home. These men are monsters, they are not gods. Save me, from us. I feel alone. The next poem I'm going to read is called Mi Isla. And it's about the loneliness that I do feel here. One, I don't know a lot of Puerto Ricans and Mexicans in Kansas, so sharing my culture it's been difficult. People aren't willing to share theirs with mine, and just assuming that I'm experiencing Kansas in the same way, sometimes it's difficult to convey to others that I am not, and that I want to even exchange the things. So this poem is titled Mi Isla, which means my island. There's a couple words in here that I think could add to the poem, and I usually don't share what those words are. I just allow them to be as they are, but this poem, I think it matters. El Yunque is a rainforest in Puerto Rico. Coquí is a small frog from Puerto Rico. Myth has it if the frog leaves the island, it'll perish. And back home, they're always afraid of what's going to the mainland, like they're not going to do well there. It's a story that's as old as the story of the Kopi, which goes back to the story of Atabe, the goddess and creator for the Taino people. So that story has lingered throughout the years, and it's changed to just the frog itself rather than the people, but we still believe ourselves to be like the Kopi. Other words are brindis por ti, papa, which means a toast for you. Barandas are Christmas caroling. During Christmas, you go home. This is when you're supposed to go home. If you don't go home for Christmas, your family wonders who you're mad at. So you absolutely have to go. And you go house to house, and you sing songs, and everyone joins the party till you run out of houses, and then you just go home. You'll sing the same songs over and over, but it's a beautiful experience. The last word that I want to make sure that I share is the word hibalo. Hibalos are peasant farmers. My father's father cut sugarcane in the mountains of Yabucoa, far away from the tourist areas of Old San Juan, on the coastlines where people visit. That's a different life out there. We still don't have running water sometimes, We're very separated from the services that are provided in Puerto Rico and the mountains. And a lot of us still have tin roof houses. We still raise our own food to eat in those places. But hibalo has a negative connotation in Puerto Rico. Hibalos are seen as simple, uneducated, and it's primarily because of their profession. They're farmers. And I found that interesting because there's a correlation that we think that way of farmers here too, which is sad, and I hope that changes at some point. I ate a mango today. It was mostly green with reds and yellows. El Yunque at dawn is mostly green with reds and yellows. My homeland's enchanted, full of shady jungle mountains, gawking naked beaches, slowly necking ocean. There, sea breezes with the palm trees and peeping coconuts faint from holding on too long in sand asleep, daydreaming of me. Tonight, we bring these for thee, Papa. Let us pretend the crickets are drunken coquis de baranda, struggling with loss, singing in the wrong key, playing out of tune, unable to find their way home. Let us pretend we are surrounded by vacation, not work, that all this sweet is beach, that the above blue is ocean. Let us pretend you are watching me, ripe in a hammock's womb, strung to horizons, with no ocean or beach sand near, no fear that I've become landlocked here, surrounded by jibaros who don't like jibaros. I wrote a lot of mango poems. The title is in my work, and I love mangoes. It absolutely reminds me of my father's home. We had mango trees outside of my grandmother's house. It was a cinder block home, 8 bedrooms, big, and she had a lot of kids. I think they were one of 11 or 12. I don't quite remember. I don't listen well. So we'd go outside and we'd eat them right off the tree. It's eating a mango like that. It's very different than buying one at a store, I assure you. This poem is entitled, When is Mango Season in Puerto Rico? A Trip Advisor Question from Jack. My sister wanted to go to Puerto Rico, and she didn't know where to go visit. And I was like, your dad, call your dad or your cousins. She wanted to figure it out on her own, so she went to TripAdvisor. This was years ago. I didn't know what TripAdvisor was. I admit that. But the response that I ran into, because I went down that rabbit hole about, okay, let's see where this question leads. And the response is from May 9, 2008, response number 3 of 11 from Vieques. That was surprising to me because Vieques is a small island off of Puerto Rico, and the fact that Vieques Island has a TripAdvisor account and I don't, it made me feel really out of place. So, but here's the poem, nonetheless, here we go. I've yet to see a mango tree in Kansas. I buy my fruit in a Whole Foods store. Most things here are from elsewhere. Even my jam travels into town. Do you know they grow a type of heaven in an orchard in a place called Santa Cruz? A mango spread, non-GMO, organic, 40 calories per tablespoon. It smells fleshy, like roadside mangoes dropped from a tree, too ripe to grow, too old to save. There was a summer in Yabacoa where the street side parking lots and driveways were paved in mangoes. We ate mango-flavored everything that summer. The taste of mangoes will make your eyes close. I ate my first gusano that July. I didn't mind. I never saw it. It was still bliss. Fruit flies are angels born in their own kind of heaven. Gusanos are like worms, and you can't taste the difference when you bite into a mango because what they're living off is the mango. So in a sense, the worm, the gusano, is part of the mango. There's just no, you can't even taste the difference because they're both soft and that's me defending what happened. So I apologize about that. So. The next poem I'm going to share is called La Humedad. It's the climate, the humidity, it's uncomfortable. I have a lot of friends who are DACA recipients who are under that pressure constantly, struggling with that. And sometimes you don't have a good answer for them. All you can do is go and try to have fun. So I would travel to Kansas City. And in Kansas City, we'd go dancing and listen to music. And, you know, in those places where music's at, and art offers this to us a lot, are places for us to get together and feel free. And for some of them, those were the only places where they feel at home and safe and understood. So this poem is about the Chesterfield in Kansas City where we go dancing. At 1400 Main Street, I asked for una Cuba libre, un Puerto Rico rico, otro Nuevo Mexico, otro Venezuela, paz en Guatemala, paz en Panama, y un Salvador para El Salvador. Within the Chesterfield, I dance con música alegre, merengue, bachata y salsa. Acá bailamos to the rhythm of the son clave en la humedad, en este humedad, en este humedad, en este humedad, en este humedad. Because sitting, wishing, and waiting would be hopeless in the climate we can't breathe in este humedad, en este humedad, en este humedad, en este humedad. Y el clima puede afectar su dolor, but I won't suffer silently. Tears beat down my brow, cries come out in song, and worry turns and dips as we protest and dance with hand in hand, la humedad, en este humedad, en este humedad, en este humedad, en este humedad. The next poem we're going to share is it's called Nuevo America, and I don't want to be called immigrants. I don't. It has such a negative connotation now, the language that we're using now. So I like to think that they who define you control you, in a sense. So I decided to use the word Nuevo American. So I made it up. I decided we're going to do that. It's fine. I've come to a pair of truths for myself. Either we accept if we're not indigenous to the land we're on, that we are all immigrants, or that there are no borders, and we're all of the Americas. So this poem touches on that slightly, some of the language that's been being used to describe people like me. Don't call me immigrant. I'm the new American, striving in New America as a new American. I'm not your invader, not an animal, no criminal. I'm a just person, just striving in a new America. In New America, I'm a full-time student, overtime worker, volunteering in my free time, if I plan enough ahead for free time, if I can even afford the free time, if my free time is approved. I work hard in New America, third shift, warehouse, second shift, my house, always on call, no days off, freelance for life, 4 jobs a week, blue and white collar. Don't call me immigrant. I'm the new American, surviving in new America as a new American. I am not your invader, not an animal, no criminal. I'm a just person, just surviving in a new America. This is new America. Student loans for all, high rent, higher utilities, low pay, rising healthcare costs, the cost of living deadly, no living wage, living in rage because my cousins are encaged for wanting to live in a safer part of new America. Don't call me immigrant. I'm the new American, living in new America as a new American. I am not your invader, not an animal, no criminal. I'm a just person, just living in a new America, strong and proud, able to withstand the distance I have traveled, the distance from my family, the distance in between us, the distance of our dialects, the distance in our churches, the distance in our homes, the distance between my ancestors and grandchildren, the distance from the streets to the dorm room, the distance from the field to the corner office suite. Don't call me immigrant. I'm the new American, dreaming of new America as a new American. I am not your invader, not an animal, no criminal. I'm a just person, just dreaming of a new America. Old America. Don't be afraid. We are all America. North America, Central America, South America. We are all Americas, strive in America, survive in Americas, live in Americas. We are all the same America. We all dream of a greater America. I want you to be paid a living wage, live in affordable housing without college debt or medical debt or credit card debt or national debt. I want no more racism. I'm speaking of a new America. I'm part of new America, whether you like it or not, so please join me. So back to Kansas City. I moved here from San Antonio, right? And it was a culture shock because I caught a bus in Topeka, and I thought I was going to be in Topeka, right? And that's where my bus ticket said. My mother said, yeah, come on up, yeah, come on. I just graduated high school. I was going to help be there for my brother. He was 4 at the time. And I did want to go to journalism school at UT. That's really there. But nothing against journalism majors. But I ended up in Topeka, then I had to drive out to Holton, Kansas, further out, and the entire drive to Topeka, because I thought I was done, didn't feel as long as to drive out to Holton. When I got out there, I felt like I was in the middle of nowhere. It was August. It was probably 68 degrees, and I thought I was gonna die of frostbite because I had this first tank top on. That's a true story. But this poem's called Surrogate City, and I would go to Kansas City when I first got here a lot because I missed home. I don't anymore because this is home to me. Now Kansas is, but this is a reflection of that time, and this is a letter I wrote to San Antonio. Surrogate City. Mamá, estoy bien. Mother KC has adopted me. She too wears iron garments of concrete and glass and winks at me across the streets. She reminds me I'm cared for with sirens in the air. She hums a highway lullaby of Old Paseo Puente, so I may pass the night skylines don't resemble. Viejas son ciudad in peace. She embraces your son, the son of soul, my soul. Mother, Casey has been good to me. Sometimes I write love poems to people who aren't here. I have a real adoration for Frida Kahlo, and I wrote a poem about her toxic relationship. You know anyone in a toxic relationship, let them know. Help them out, get them out of it. This is my poem about hers. So, she's not your calla lily. I think her bones would blush if I dug them out of the grave with a thimble taken from the sewing room in the basement of a nunnery filled with Mother Teresa posters. Her Spiritu Santa, marveling at my persistence to unbury her, my desire to cleanse and wipe away sacrilege. As I searched, I would recite Rilke in an infinite cycle of marrying poems. She would find my toil in the earth picturesque, romantic or disturbing. Another Alexandria hold, infertile, barren, and scarred, a sill with views of dreams abandoned. But the truth is, she's not buried here. The fire took her, sons of the soil. This has troubled me. She has become knick-knackery, painted pottery, an object in Diego's home. Outside La Casa Azul, a tourist mocks me for digging. Loco, just go inside and see her. I reply, but I want to touch her, hermano. If her body could not withstand her passions, what makes you think an urn could contain her ashes? She is out here in the yard, waiting to be resurrected, a seed of cacao. For a moment he stood there in shame, not wanting to get his hands dirty, and walked away as I continued to scrape the earth with the persistence of an ox. I could tell the stranger had little to no respect for obsession, eternal love, or superfluous suffering, unable to martyr for what he believed in, a candle and a wick. He did not believe in love. He did not believe in her. As he left, I yelled, I know who you are, Miri. Shame on you, Capsi. Shame on you, Diego. Shame on you. Shame on you. Shortly after, I was escorted from the lawn with the rock doves cuckooing, their laughter, too late to warn me, or maybe a bit more mockery. It seems nature can be cruel to us all. One of my favorite singers growing up is Panamanian. My mother's from Panama, and his name is Ruben Blades. Recently nominated for a Latin Grammy here recently, so I'm very excited about that. The fact that he's still doing work now that's so relevant. He's working with a group outside of Kansas City, making movies. They're doing wonderful work as well. But I wrote a poem to one of his songs. It's called Pablo Pueblo. My mother would put it on vinyl, and we'd listen to it over and over. And he was a bit of an activist, and still is with his sharing of his music. So I wrote a poem called Papa Blades. And it references this very specific song. If you ever have a chance to look it up, there are translations of it into English. It's very relevant today as well. Pablo Pueblo del Cerro has always been quiet when going to and from work. He's tired, always rushing, constantly chased by shadows in unknown places. Pablo Pueblo del Cerro is still in the dark, under the streetlights that sprout like blooms out of the concrete of a neighboring land. When he sees those walls built by politicians, you should see his disappointment as he waits for Cambio Social. I am a child of Pablo Pueblo, a son of Papa Blades, descendant of the scream in the streets of misery and hunger, on the corner of rage between the avenues of loss and the alleys full of sorrows. Aquí, the street names have changed, but we still feel the same after all these years, after all these songs, after all this singing, after all these words. Lo mismo. So I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. This is a poem about me still not being okay with adulting sometimes. That's a real thing for me. I find it hard to balance my creative life with my professional life. They still don't merge. That's okay. But Shel Silverstein and Where the Sidewalk Ends was like one of those early books I was just like really like obsessed with, like pictures and poems, and I think that's where I discovered like imagery and the power of it, and how what they write can coincide with a picture and an image. You know, this poem is entitled "When Will the Sidewalks End?" Rainwater. Give us rainwater. Seep softly into cracks where the asphalt flowers grow. Worryless, as accepting hardships, rising up to surface as sunlight, as beauty, as beauty. We sing in the language of flowers without shame because none of us asked to be buried at birth. Raise your songs like suns for blooms, all light, pure life, and gardens together will grow. I wrote a poem for a friend of mine, a blues singer from Topeka, very talented, by the name of Ellie Smith. And she too deals with, trying to live your creative truth amidst everything else that occurs around you. And that can be very hard. Singing her blues, for Elizabeth. Those stage lights are bright, but never as hot as the 40-watt bulb blazing in the porch light outside your home. That spotlight, that searchlight, that second sun, keeping the day longer than it needs to be. Your front door is as far from backstages as you will ever get. So when you're at a gig and someone in the audience insists you sing your heart out, you will glance at each other, smiling with our little secrets. You're singing it back in, and that's okay. It's none of their business anyway. I do a lot of theater, and a lot of my friends sometimes it's difficult to communicate with them. They're always on. I don't know if you know what being on. You're always performing. You're always happy. You're always, it's okay to not be on. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to share, the dark moments that you have. I think people would appreciate us more if we did share those, but always ask permission to share, those kind of things. They have things you're going through as well, and permission to create a safe space involves more than one person. So this poem is called Actress. Outside you are polished stone. Wandering in, I notice ornateness draped in the color of an opera house. You look divine in costume, festive in a full room, alone or steady, full of empty space. I watch you nudging for attention, penitent for lacking interest, so tired of the songs. You need not wear that smile now. I'm not here for a show. A love poem. I had to put a love poem in this book because that's what I like to write, and I don't like not to share love. I think love is a beautiful thing. It should be honored. It should be expressed openly. So here's a love poem called Examples. If the moon shattered and fell out the sky, I would gather its shards, build a mosaic of night, so you may sleep and dream in peace. If the sun were to cool, I would dance ablaze in a dervish outside your window, so the birds would chirp in the light of false mornings, waking with love songs. If the sea disappeared, I'd lay mirrors on an ocean bed near the coastline, so you could see the blue depths of devotion and pick it up like sea glass whenever you choose. And if the wind were to stop, I'd whisper in your ear each day to remind you air can still move you. So I'm speaking openly here, right, sharing my truth. I suffer from severe depression, something that I deal with on a regular basis. I wish we had more open dialogue about things like that. I was having a conversation yesterday about it, and I've done work with organizations and events like Word Safe Lives out of Lawrence, where we get together and we allow people who have survived those experiences, with family members or loved ones or friends that have passed, and they get to share their words and their poetry in a safe space and be vulnerable and be sad, try to empathize as best possible in a safe way. The numbers are staggering in Kansas. Suicideprevention.org, a statistic from 2018 says the leading cause of death in Kansas for the demographic of 14 to 44 is suicide. I'm not sure how many people are aware of that, but that number has been rising since. We're almost in 2020. So this is my struggle with that. Where the songbird goes at 3 a.m. Beneath a porch light, peeking through my sleeves, magpies tug on tiny wind chimes, jingling blue ballads while a note is held too long after Irish goodbyes. A June beetle scurries and meets the door. I hear crickets whisper, "Picky." The Impala fumes pulls me in, bright eyes full of pity, a gentle silk. The screen door never closes here. Moonlight's entry, gust of air, creaking hinges and walkway rugs. I can hear the northern sea oats crashing into cheatgrass during sky tides. It's the rustling, the sound we let in. It ends abrupt. I rest until morning, when the magpies go, and I again can fool alone, flying away, singing into the day, back into the glade, back into the light, back into the clearing, into today, back into the glade, back into the light, back into the clearing, into today, back into the glade, back into the light, back into the clearing. One of my favorite poets is Mary Oliver. You know, she passed. I don't know, I took it in a weird way. You know, she taught me grace, and I found grace in poetry, through her words. Wild Geese. There's a line in there that I hope I don't mess up right now. So, you do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees 100 miles through the desert repenting. And at that moment, I forgave myself. You know, that was, you're right, I don't have to be good. It's okay to not be good. And knowing that poem is called Wild Geese, whenever I see birds in the air, it's a moment of grace for me every time. It's never not been. Now, I don't even know if they're geese sometimes or ducks or whatever, but, you know, I feel that feeling. You know, it's that flying away from emotion and releasing catharsis. So the 6 poems called for today. Today, I write to you with promise and truth. I write for now, not of tomorrow, nor yesterday. Today, I write to you where age is indifferent. Here in our moment, the past having passed, the future uncertain. Today, I write to you as a reminder to be present, ever vigilant, self-aware, and care. Today, I write to you to say, I will be kind, I will take heed, and I will ask when I am in need. Today, I write to you as a clearing of space, left filled yet empty still of wounds or wrongs untreated, of any feeling in need of healing. Be gone. Today, I write to you, I am here with you. It is now. Another poet that passed away, and I'm trying to get too dark here, but John Ashbery. Good trivia fact about John Ashbery is he was the first Poet Laureate of MTV. That's what I got for him. So this poem is in its original form on the day I wrote it years ago, and no one really read it, but it's one of my favorite poems. And maybe it's the title, because I wrote it on Facebook. You know, it's like you pass out your hands, you gotta say something, you know. That shared grief experience that we try to have, you know, through social media. This poem is called, and I'm sorry for the long title, a Facebook post for a postmodernist poet in the form of a poem upon hearing of their passing. So we're gonna go from there. For John Ashbery. Too often, a man's size is measured after he's left. The broadness of his shoulders, the width of his chest, the length of his reach and step. Death's well-fitted suit ordered as birthright befits most men, but not you. Yours cannot be tailored at its end. Giants aren't buried. They lay where they fall before us as horizons decline. Not many will. And this is how we will be measured next to you. You are now a landscape I must travel. I had a friend who was very lost recently, and I wrote a poem for them. It's actually a form poem. I usually don't write them, but I felt like writing them. It's also referred to as a concrete poem. So it's in the form of ship sailing off. So this one's called Directions. Draw your dreams on boundless maps. No edge, no north, no south, no east, no west. Draw behind you borders, post passage, not before. Draw yourself at center as windrows, not compass. Mark that map key inward as legend. Discover you, conquer you, protect you, liberate you, govern you. You are not lost. Remember, you have carried storms as winds for sails to reach your destinations. Keep going, never stop, go. A few more poems I want to share, and then we'll open room for questions, so that's again, I'll let you know. This poem is called Same Old News. It's a response to a Pedro Peasley poem, Puerto Rican obituary, that was written in the 70s. And that poem can be read right now, and nothing has changed. It's where we're at, where I'm at, excuse me. I'd like to share my response. This is for Pedro. We still work. Sometimes we are late. We speak back when insulted. We still work. We take days off. We call into work. We go on strike. We still work. 10 days a week, 2 jobs minimum, no overtime. Still only getting paid for 5, but even less now. We still work. We still work. We work harder and harder, get tired, show up late, call into work, then return to work, broke and broken. We work hard, work harder, then we die broke, die owing more, die more broken than before. Forget the national things. Juan, Miguel, Milagros, Olga, and Manuel are still dying. Juan is bribing local senators. Miguel lost the belt. Milagros disappeared. Olga sees the sadness. Manuel left for Broadway. They're still dying. We die broken in hurricanes and wars, from gunshots and therapy, traumatized on drugs and alcohol alone. Emotional and economic depressions are still tropical depressions. Aquí se habla Spanglish all the time. Aquí they put America first. Aquí they throw paper towels at us. Aquí they call us Mexican. Aquí they call us immigrant. Aquí we are all the same. Aquí we are non-white. Aquí we are only brown. Aquí we are the other. Aquí we call Latino to be hated. This next one was from my first collection of work, and I like to share it for Astra and Astra. I do often say now that I am Kansan. I do believe when I arrived here, I planted the seed, my roots took hold, and I grew, and I feel like I'm blossoming. So if I'm not a Kansan, I'm at least a Helianthus, right? Because sunflower is a beautiful thing. This poem is called For Astra and Astra. We were lost in the plains, beautiful and ordinary. Sunflowers in the fields, seeds of fallen stars, standing tall and deeply rooted in this land. I've admired how our flowers shine, grasping towards the sky, beyond the prairie grass, anchored down to earth, mimicking the sun. When a gardener plants the seed of Helianthus, they are performing magic, raising stars out of the dust where buzzing planets circle, half-red moons set, and swarming comets float in orange cones. I've always felt that. Late at night, in the bed of a truck, in the Kansas field, we were at the center of this universe. And I was exactly where I should be, amongst the flowers, not alone. I will read one poem from someone that has inspired me most of my life since I was 13, Jimmy Santiago Baca. And then I'm going to read my last poem, and the last one I'm going to read in English and Spanish. And I hope it connects with you. But I do believe, as T.S. Eliot says, that poetry can communicate before it's understood. And I think that communication he's referring to is emotion. So, but this poem is entitled Who Understands Me But Me? It's by Jimmy Santiago Baca. He wrote in Earthquakes, he wrote Working in the Dark, Memoirs of a Poet in the Barrio, which is a very important piece of work for me, and Immigrants in Our Own Land. Those are some pivotal reads for me in my life. But this poem is entitled Who Understands Me But Me? It's by Jimmy Santiago Baca. They turned the water off, so I live without water. They build walls higher, so I live without treetops. They paint the windows black, so I live without sunshine. They lock my cage, so I live without going anywhere. They take each last tear I have. I live without tears. They take my heart and rip it open. I live without heart. They take my life and crush it, so I live without a future. They say I am beastly and fiendish, so I have no friends. They stop up each hope, so I have no passage out of hell. They give me pain, so I live with pain. They give me hate, so I live with my hate. They have changed me. I am not the same man. They give me no shower, so I live with my smell. They separate me from my brothers, so I live without brothers. Who understands me when I say this is beautiful? Who understands me when I say I have found other freedoms? I cannot fly or make something appear in my hand. I cannot make the heavens open or the earth tremble. I can live with myself, and I am amazed at myself, my love, my beauty. I am taken by my failures, astounded by my fears. I am stubborn and childish. In the midst of this wreckage of life they incurred, I practice being myself, and I have found parts of myself never dreamed of by me. They were goaded out from under rocks in my heart when the walls were built higher. When the water was turned off and the windows painted black, I followed these signs like an old tracker and followed the tracks deep into myself, followed the blood-spotted path deeper into dangerous regions and found so many parts of myself. Who taught me water is not everything, and gave me new eyes to see through walls. When they spoke, sunlight came out of their mouths, and I was laughing at me with them. We laughed like children and made pacts to always be loyal. Who understands me when I say this is beautiful? The last poem I'm going to share is the titular poem to my next collection. It's called Un Mango Grows in Kansas. I'm going to read it in English first, and I'm going to end with the Spanish version, and then I'm going to open up the floor to questions. So thank you for your time and for listening. You have found me, hidden in a wheat field, within a husk of corn, growing for you. I am ready. Pick me. Hold me in your hands, remove my skin, peel away my cover, find that I am tender, soft, and sweet. Eat of me until there is nothing, and your mouths are empty, and your bellies filled. What is left still lives as seed to grow again, brighter, hardened, and less bitter. Un mango crece en Kansas. Me has encontrado escondido en un campo de trigo, dentro de una hoja de maíz, creciendo para ti. Estoy listo. Elígeme. Abrázame en tus manos, quítame la piel, velar mi color. Encuentra que soy tierno, suave y dulce. Come de mí hasta que no haya nada, y tus bocas están vacías y tus barrigas se llenaron. Lo que quiera aún vive como semilla, creciendo de nuevo más brillante, curtido y menos amargo. Thank you.
Okay, if anyone has any questions for Huascar about his work, about being Poet Laureate, about publishing or performing, please raise your hand and we'll get to everyone who has questions.
Can you speak to your experience thus far of being the Kansas Poet Laureate and your engagement with the people of Kansas?
Very honest, very sincere, more welcoming than I expected. You know, sometimes we get too far into our own feelings. You know, I had to open up. So this has been an exercise in vulnerability every place I go, and people are open to conversations about, you know, my fears and aspirations of living in Kansas. And they do the same with me, things they love or don't love about Kansas, and things that they're proud of that make them Kansan. I'm having really good conversations with people. Yes.
So many years ago at the Salina River Festival, one of the storytellers was Antonio Sacre. And he would share his experience being part white, part Cuban, growing up, with members of his family, kind of learning and navigating through those worlds. I was wondering, is he an artist that you've heard of, or?
Not
No?
familiar with, I know now.
Okay.
I'll look it up and I'll read the work.
Yeah.
I'll find someone to connect with. Yes. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
We do have similar experiences though. I can
Yeah.
tell. So yeah, I look forward to meeting with.
Yeah.
And Antonio Sacre.
Yes, Antonio Sacre.
Sacre. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
You commented that your work is not political.
Yes.
I find it political, not didactic. And I wonder what you mean when you say your work is not political.
I'm not advocating for any political party. That's what I mean by that.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Your book of poetry that's going to come out soon,
Yes.
is that the readings that you did today, did it come from your book? Or that?
Most of them did.
Yes.
Yeah, there's 3 that didn't, and there's a lot of work I didn't share as for the book as well. This
So
one
when
time.
is it coming out?
It'll be out the end of the year, which means that it will probably be published 2020 at this point. The publisher I spoke with yesterday, I missed my deadline a couple weeks ago, I'll be honest about that. So I can let go of the work. I was trying to find a way to describe my experience, that's open, It's very difficult to do, especially when it makes people uncomfortable, to express yourself openly. It's hard to have dialogue when I'm the one at the mic and people are in the audience, But I hope that at least reading my work or meeting with me and talking with me, we can have shared dialogue openly after, I step away from the mic. That's also good as well. So, the work, this was mostly that work, and it's very topical. It really is. It's about isolation and trying to connect and longing and missing. So, yes.
Traveling around Kansas, what do you think young people's attitude towards poetry is today?
I think poetry for them has, for a very long time, fallen into a classroom setting. It's something that you're graded for. You have to, you're in a sense forced to understand or analyze in a particular way. It's not a freeing experience. It's not very positive the majority of the time. I remember having to memorize a sonnet. I don't remember that sonnet now, but I remember being really scared about it, and I don't read my sonnets anymore. I do, but I don't have the same love for it as I do for other forms of poetry. And maybe that's why, right? Because my first experience with it was, you have to do this. It wasn't a freeing experience. I wasn't allowed to share what I wanted. And I think a lot of students have that. They're not allowed to express themselves in the same ways that we did before. Conversation, I believe now, is harder to have with people in a genuine sense, to be authentic and truthful. It's real easy to use that social media or that piece of glass, to create a persona or to come across maybe sometimes with less sincerity than they actually are, but it's just that barrier, and so I want to let them know, hey, let's go back to poetry. Let's take poetry and use it as a form of communication in the home. Let's use poetry as a way to write down past emotions and slow them down and find ways to communicate with other people you normally would never meet. So poetry exists outside the classroom, I guess is my answer. And they've always viewed it as something that is taught to them. And they're being taught poetry, but they're not being taught the tool of poetry and what it's for. Yes?
When did you first start writing poetry, and how do you think your work has changed over time?
It changes day to day. I'm not gonna lie to you. My word choice is better. I have a bigger vocabulary now than I was 11 or 12. So that's the change in it. I had a conversation with my editor the other day that I didn't want to have to write this type of work right now. It's not what I want to do. I want to write love poems. I want to write about beautiful things. But I think I do a disservice if I don't share an experience that people don't normally see. That is a real Kansas experience. That is a real part of an American experience now. So I'm attempting to share that very openly now. So most of my work right now is very topical. It is about that, it's just, I just want to be viewed as a person with feelings, as a human being, regardless of what I look like, what I sound like, what my name is. I want to have communication with people on that level. So my work now is trying to bridge a gap, open dialogue, not just speak from a place of authority, because that's not what this is. I'm not speaking from a place of authority. I'm speaking from a place of vulnerability. Everything I'm saying is very real, very true, and I experience it every day. The work I'm doing has been really focused on being a Kansan at this time, because I feel, my mother, she got her citizenship probably like 5 years ago. And she works in a hospital, and like when people are like extremely sick, she gets words like, wet back, spit, go back to your country, don't touch me. Like, this is 2019. This is a real thing. So how do I, with a platform that I have now, express to people that, she's just someone trying to help you, that she's a human being, that she has compassion for you. So I just share my story and allow that to funnel through me.
So one of the things that you touched on was the struggles in Puerto Rico, and they've been doing pretty poorly since the hurricane. I was curious if you have any suggestions or recommendations as to what should be done to help redress the hardship there.
Not at all. That sounds like a really good question. I just wish my family were doing better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to share a heart of this for them. I went months without talking to my dad. And I don't really regularly talk to him. And I had to reach out, and I had, people telling me, hey, things okay back home? I don't know. It's been months. Right? No internet, cell towers down, electricity's down. It was very difficult to not have information to share with other people who were just as concerned as I was. So if you have friends who have similar experiences, are from other countries, and there's like devastation in their homeland, ask them how they're doing as well, not just how their family back home is doing too. Those things go hand in hand, so there's a connection there. And sometimes those connections, especially during times of diaspora, that's what's going to happen in Puerto Rico. People are going to leave the island again. There's no jobs or something. They're going to come to the States again, the mainland, excuse me, and have the same experiences that, Pedro Petrie and, Jimmy Santiago Topeka and Modest was having in the 70s. Same experiences. So, I don't have anything to say other than that. Sorry if I didn't answer your question.
Why did you pick Kansas?
Kansas chose me. That's real. I like to say that I'm someone that loses things a lot, but things always find me. Kansas was where my mother is at. She moved up here. I was raised by my mother. I moved away when I was 13, living with my aunt. She adopted me. I ran away for a while. This is a similar parallel to Jimmy Santiago Topeka's work, that's why we connect so much. And my brother's up here, so I was like, he's not going to have my childhood. And I needed to plant my roots somewhere. I moved around. My father's in the military, so Joe started. We moved around like every 3 years, and then after that, I was moving around almost every year for a while, trying to find, a place to call home and grow up, and be safe and be a good kid. And it became San Antonio. So when school was over, and I was told, your time is up, you gotta leave. I had nowhere to go, so I went back to my mother, and we got reconnected, and I got reconnected with my family. And after 3 years, I finally felt at home somewhere. My entire life, I've never felt at home anywhere. I've always traveled, I've always moved around, and everyone that I met was like, why did you move to Kansas? I was like, I came here for my family. My family's here. We don't have any other families, just my mother and my aunt. That's our support group. So that's just 2 people. So what generally happens is you go where they're at, for that extra support. So. Is there any other questions? Yes.
I was struck by the poem. I don't remember the name, but Mother and Madre, and then the men are monsters, not gods.
Yes.
I want to know more about the men and how does that fit into that?
Colonialism.
Okay.
Spaniards coming to the islands and us you know, I don't know what the word is, treat them like gods, and the effect that had on the Taino culture, their people.
And was it the same poem where, the farmers who hate other farmers? Was that the same one?
That's a different
Or,
poem.
oh, that was a different
That's
one.
me Islam.
And that was, okay. And I was struck by that too, because being like third generation, my father's, ancestors are from Mexico, and it's interesting to see, my own family be disconnected from those roots and to see the racism sometimes within, and how quickly that can develop. And so that just really struck a chord that I think it seems like sometimes, if we're promoting assimilation, you also get assimilated to the colonialism, and how quickly that can happen.
Yes.
So that,
And I believe in acculturation, the melding of the different cultures, but we fight against that very much through erasure. There's people that live in Kansas for at least 4 or 5 generations in Dodge City, in the village out there, that helped build the railroad they came across with Santa Fe, and they still are being called, immigrants to this day, or derogatory terms, because of the way they look. They've moved the entire village from one place of Dodge City to the other. They physically moved their church with their hands to bricks over to the other side of town. They've been there this entire time, and they're still being not treated as equals in Kansas. Did you have a question right there? I kept skipping you. Did you have another question? Okay, sorry. Does anyone else have any questions? Yes.
You mentioned that you had done a lot of theater. I'm wondering how you know your poetry with theater. You said you also wrote lyrics, so I'm just wondering if you've
Yes.
ever done any writing for the theater and seen anything produced.
I've had one play produced in Topeka, that Ad Astra writing project, a homegrown playwright project, which is a competition in Northeast Kansas. The Ad Astra Theater Ensemble group, and they're done. They've been around for 10 years in Topeka. But I had a play produced called Theater's Love, and it was a surreal experience, because these are characters in your brain, right? And then all of a sudden, there's a person speaking those lines, and that was crazy. They asked me if I wanted to, how involved I wanted to in the process. And I was like, not at all. Not at all. It was very scary for me. We workshopped it, and they tore it apart, and I thank them for that, because they made it a better piece of work. But yeah, seeing the people out there, man, a trip. That's the only way I can describe it. It's like, oh, my brain is on stage. Wow. So, yeah. But I use performing. I try to emote really well. Something that the theater community has given me how to express myself and capture the feeling in the moment and hold on to it, but also do it in a safe way with their space. Like, I'm not reliving, trauma or anything like that, but I am still able to express those feelings in a very safe way and expressive way because of the theater experience that I have. Is there another question? That's all I have. There's a number of questions. Thank you very much for your time.
That was a presentation by Kansas Poet Laureate Huascar Medina at Kansas Wesleyan University. You're watching Salina Media Connection.